I particularly like this session because where else can you get someone that studies the platform so thoroughly, and then someone, Bob, who's the head of automotive retail for Facebook, who is our voice for dealers into Facebook, saying dealers need this, dealers want this, this is how it's working. So we're gonna have both of those. Brian Pasch, the founder of PCG Companies. He puts on Automotive Attributions and Analytics Summit every year, Digital Marketing Strategies Conference, and he puts out a ton of content that keeps dealers at the front. Bob Lanham, the head of automotive retail for Facebook, has been an absolute force for good in automotive, especially marketing, in my opinion, helping dealers squeeze every bit out of their marketing dollars. So Brian, Bob, welcome to the program. Can you hear me okay? Brian, can you hear me?
Perfectly.
Oh, great. Gentlemen, thanks for being part of this.
Yes, I can.
Thanks for being flexible with the tech difficulties. We're figuring this out. It's our first time through, and hopefully everyone that does this after us will be able to do it a little bit better, a little smoother. Gentlemen, we just got out of a session that had Cliff Banks, Steve Greenfield, David Spizak, and Alan Haig, so we were really flying high at 50,000 feet, considering things in automotive, big movers, big shakers, and then dealers even thinking about, should I hold my business and lean into the changes, or maybe it's time for me to start thinking about exiting the business while things are still good. This session, I think, is going to give us some tools for the people that want to dig deeper and build the value of their business through their marketing channels and efficiency in marketing. That's where this discussion is going to kind of go in the flow of what we've been talking about today to give you a little bit of context. So let me just start out with this. Brian, we're talking about brand marketing through these channels, specifically Facebook, and I want Bob's opinion and insights on this. It seems like a time when dealers can really make more efficient use of their ad dollars through measurement and execution than ever before. Do you agree with that, and what do you see as some really big opportunities for dealers to do that?
Sure, and thank you for having both Bob and I on this panel. It really comes down to the dealer's comfort level with data and a commitment to lean in. For example, in Facebook and with video advertising specifically, to communicate that brand promise, the elements of their brand experience, communicating those in video are fantastic. And now with Facebook attribution, taking that feed from the DMS, looking at service transactions and sales transactions, for the first time, without sophisticated tools, a single point store could see of the people who interacted with my video ads, saw them, clicked through to them, whatever, how many of those transacted in my DMS. That's really a breakthrough because for the most part, this idea of linking online actions or activity or interest with physical store sales has been somewhat elusive, and Facebook is really making it easy now. And video is the most effective, I believe, for communicating brand promise.
So, Bob, Facebook has put a lot of effort into this dealer playbook to really help dealers execute what Brian is saying right now. What is your perspective as far as what is working on Facebook and why?
Yeah, I'll go back to what David said in the panel right before us that I thought was really interesting. The example of prescription drugs, right? And he said, well, if you go home with one, but you have 12 more at home, how is it going to work? And, the playbook is designed because drugs will interact with each other. Media will interact with each other. You can't look at media in a silo, right? They all work together. And I just love that example. So, the playbook is meant to be full funnel. It's meant to provide an outlet for that brand promise that I learned from Brian a number of years ago when I was putting the playbook together. It's meant to then show your lower funnel VIN inventory to retarget customers, right? With the goal of measuring it all back to sales. So if a dealer would take one thing away from at least what I'm saying today is challenge yourself to understand how media works. Don't bring the sales mentality into the media world. Understand media and human behavior because media platforms work together and you got to look at it holistically.
I think this is one of the first times in history where brand, and anybody watching this knows I am a champion of brand because I think it influences how people feel and people make decisions based on how they feel. I also think that when we look at our behaviors in retail in general, not automotive retail, but why we buy things, why we move close to brands, we do that because there has been a full funnel approach that has been deployed against us that we are unaware of because it's so natural and so aligned and relevant to our life. I feel like for the first time ever in history, with some of the new tools that are coming out, some of the new Facebook tools, we are now able to deploy brand to a customer, measure what it's doing, and then actually begin to transact all in one place. Is that...
And Paul, let me make one comment about
please
brand message. I don't want to miss this. I was talking to a dealer yesterday, and they talked about they had a period of explosive growth. They were basically an early proponent of one price, no hidden fees, like everything up front. And they said, early on, and we're talking now 15 plus years ago, it accelerated growth. It was the hot button that made their phones ring and people show. The comment was in our planning meeting yesterday is that, over the years, dealers have cleaned up their act. There's a lot more professional looking facilities, not the car guy with the cigar. There's a lot more people offering one price or claiming one price. And so we also have to be careful that what used to work 10 or 15 years ago to really make things move may not have the same impact. And we have to really work hard in each market to test the brand message that's going to work, because whether it's Facebook or another platform, a broken message or an outdated message isn't going to be the wow result that dealers are going to be looking for.
Yeah, and one of the things that I would say to that, I totally agree with that, is that the brand message is much more complex and nuanced than maybe the first 3 words that we throw across the table, right? We all have to have an umbrella, and I'm not saying, I spoke a little bit earlier, that 3 words won't save you. And if you think of 2 great companies that are killing it that don't have 3 words, in Carvana and Tesla, right? They don't have 3 words, but even so the 3 words will never save you. But the 3 words, because of the way we can really micro-target, whether that's Facebook, whether that's OTT, whether that's whatever, we can micro-target. So the brand message actually can be nuanced for one demographic and another demographic. We can sell trucks to the farmer, and a brand message to him can be nuanced differently than it is to the businessman who just wants to, feel like he's a farmer sometimes. Bob, do you see dealers deploying in ways like that, in sophisticated ways across the platform? And if so, what do you see the results being?
Yeah, what we're even starting to see dealers do is understand what we call exclusion audiences, right? Which is, I want to target this large audience, but I want to exclude a subset because maybe they're already customers.
Give us an example of that. Yeah, give us an example of like what an exclusion audience. I know you said generally, but give us a specific.
Customers that bought last month, and they're not going to be in market for the next 3 years, right? So you'd want to exclude them from any marketing because you already know they're your customer as of a month ago, and you don't need to target them for quite some time. Now, what you want to target them with is a service message, right, in the next 15, 20 days or so, because if you can get them to come in for service, obviously the loyalty to the dealership continues to grow. So to answer your question, here's what we see. Dealers who run brand advertising, the why buy, right? Brian Kramer said it best like 2 sessions ago, which is it's not about the transaction anymore. It's about the experience, right? And people are willing to pay a premium, like Steve just said in the last session. Goes to Amazon. Amazon doesn't have the best prices. That the majority of products you buy in an Apple store, you can buy for 30% cheaper somewhere else. But why is there a line in the Apple store? Right? So we need to understand. And what happens when you run brand is you actually drive all those lower funnel metrics you're looking for, which are clicks to VDP pages, maybe leads, right? Now digital retail sessions online. It's the brand advertising that is actually going to drive, because you've built the trust, like the meet and greet in the store, will drive that intent and consideration for the dealer.
And so with that being said, let's be honest, like all of this, what the intent is to drive down our marketing costs per unit, right? Not drive down our click costs, not drive down any costs. In the end, we want a more efficient business as a result of better marketing and advertising. Brian, how are you seeing people measure the effectiveness of brand campaigns and brand first initiatives? Because it's not always one-to-one. I mean, we're starting to bring attribution online a little bit, but it's still not the simplest thing to measure. So what do you advise dealers to do?
Sure. So, this conversation has come up for a long time in regards to video advertising on linear cable, now on OTT. If something isn't clickable and it's a branding message, how do you know it's working? And without being so sophisticated, things like Google My Business Insights are very helpful. You see, Google blocks the organic keywords that drive direct click traffic to your website. They've done that for years. But Google My Business will show you the number of times certain keywords are being searched. And what I've found is when you turn on or amplify brand-based messaging, whether you're using Effective or Spectrum Reach or Cox or OTT partners, you will see the number of queries on your brand grow, and it is measurable. And that's really important because at the end of the day, non-clickable kind of brand messaging is still very, very important, and everything can't be a click.
So you're saying the Google My Business Insights, not search traffic, but Google My Business Insights.
Yeah, because remember, every time a consumer types in the dealership name, Google My Business appears in search. So it's a proxy. It's a proxy for determining branded search, right? You will not see, if you get, for example, 30,000 people a month coming organically to your website, Google blocks 95% of every keyword, so you don't know.
Yep.
But since GMB shows up 100% of the time on branded search for a dealer, then you can see that lift. And that would be a lift in phone calls, a lift in click to directions, a lift in engagement with the listing. So GMB is a great tool to help the video industry, the OTT players actually show, and I would even leverage if someone was off of radio, for example. In some markets, dealers are still absolutely convinced that radio is driving engagement. So we have to use proxies for non-clickable actions.
That's very great. I think of my search behavior now, whenever it's a retail establishment of any kind, I actually start my search from Google Maps.
Yes. And again,
because I know I'm going to want the directions at some point or
Yep.
the phone number, and so I just open Google Maps and I start there. I don't open the browser.
Right. And one of the things that all dealers listening today will be shocked at, and I'm not sure why, but if they did a local search in their market for a personal injury attorney or divorce attorney, you will see some lawyers are smart and they have promoted their Google My Business ad in the map pack and in the search, especially where it's competitive. If you're a dealer in a competitive metro market, it's called Google Local Ads. I would say 95% of all dealers I've searched are not running those ads. So why wouldn't you want to be the #1 dealer in the map pack? Since you brought that up, it's just a little tip. And to kind of bring back our conversation about efficiencies, the beautiful thing about Facebook is not only is it more cost effective than Google in getting local actions, but it's very tight. Like when set up properly, it really doesn't go off the rails. I would say many times when I'm looking at Google Ads campaigns, there is weird traffic coming from all over the place and dealers are paying for it, whether it's mistakenly identified in GA or it's just, bot traffic. One of the other kind of, maybe people didn't even think about it, is that Facebook's a cleaner local advertising strategy.
Understood. Gentlemen, we don't have much time left, unfortunately, so what I'd like to do is I'm going to ask Bob, what is the best way that dealers can learn more about the tools and the outputs and be involved with what Facebook's doing to help dealers along? And then I'll switch to Brian.
Just do a search for Facebook Dealer Playbook. We've got a hub, it'll come right up. You can download it, you can start browsing it. Not to plug Brian, but join the Attribution Summit next week. We're gonna talk about Facebook attribution, which can match back to sales, right? Which is the holy grail. What Brian said in the beginning when he started talking was the second you get away from this idea of, I have to measure the last click, because that's the important, and you understand your entire media plan, click or no click, your marketing is going to change and it's going to become much more efficient. So just search for our playbook.
And moving on, Brian, I'm going to give you a chance to speak too, but I want to second Bob's non-plug of Brian. The next week, AAAS seminar. I will tell you that if you are a marketing or data nerd, you are going to feel right at home. Brian puts on, in my opinion, one of the most relevant events in automotive, and he also, in my opinion, has gone far beyond other live events or other streamed events when it comes to how to keep people interacting. He's got amazing stuff planned. I'll let him talk about it. I'm going to be a part of it as well. And Brian, we're thankful that you've decided to partner with us to be our educational partner. I'm going to let you talk about it because I hope that more dealers will attend the session and the seminar, the conference next week. Because I think it's incredibly relevant and I think it's incredibly hands in the dirt stuff that will change your business and your perspective right away. With all that, Brian, you don't have anything else to say, do you?
Well, listen, I want to make one observation from a dealer conversation yesterday. They had 3 people running Facebook ads. Listen, Facebook is easy entry, but please, dealers, get more serious about who is running your Facebook ads and don't let everyone and their cousin run them for your business, number one. Number 2, Paul, I want to give everyone who's attending the Automotive State of the Union a special bonus. If they go online and buy a ticket for the Attribution Summit, which is Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I will give them a second ticket for someone else in their organization for free. And all of the content, over 50 plus workshops, will be online until the end of January. So it's like a master class in automotive retail marketing. And we are going to have over 1,000 automotive professionals, about 600 from the US, about 400 internationally registered. So don't miss out on the conference. Don't miss Paul's workshop. Don't miss Bob's workshop. But everything can be found at automotiveattributionsummit.com. If you buy a ticket, shoot me an email. Very simple, brian@brianpasch.com with that second person, and I will personally send you a second ticket because you are investing in education. You're here today with Paul, and I'm blessed to be part of the program.
I appreciate that. I didn't know he was going to do that. And if anyone has any confusion on how to get there, just shoot us a message through our LinkedIn channel. We'll make sure we can give it back to you. Brian, Bob, thank you so much for giving us some of your time. Look forward to partying with you next week, virtually, of course, and helping move the ball forward a little bit more.